Just this week, Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg was on Capitol Hill to face questions about privacy and how his company uses your personal information. The same questions could be asked about those popular home DNA test kits and what the companies behind them do with your genetic information. Our Lisa Fletcher investigates the promise and profits of DNA.
I traded in my lederhosen for a kilt.
Unlocking who you really are.
I'm everything. I'm from all nations.
Is the promise of at-home DNA testing.
The surprise was Scandinavian, actually.
Heather Townsend wanted to trace her roots, so she submitted a sample to the company MyHeritage.
I always knew, like, I'm Scottish, I'm English, I'm Polish, all these things, and so I was kind of expecting it to be reaffirmed. It's just kind of a fun thing.
Sheldon Krimsky heads the Council for Responsible Genetics, a public interest watchdog group focusing on genetic technologies. He wrote a consumer guide about DNA tests and suggests the results may not be worth the risk.
People can use your DNA in ways that you may not like.
So, instead of focusing so much on tracing Heather's lineage of Scottish, English, and Scandinavian ancestry, let's trace some of the concerns about DNA testing. 1. Selling your chromosomes for cash.
So the objective here isn't just to sell DNA kits for fun?
That's only part of the business plan. The other part of the business plan is to sell that information to some other companies.
Back in 2013, a 23andMe board member said in an interview with Fast Company, "The long game here is not to make money selling kits. Once you have the data, the company does actually become the Google of personalized healthcare." The big buyer of your DNA data? Researchers.
Somebody comes over to you and says, "I want to use your DNA for research," and you might say, "What kind of research?" "Oh, I don't know. I want to do research on building biological weapons." "Oh, no, not my DNA. Forget it. I'm not interested in that." But in this case, you may not have a choice because they're not going to ask you.
23andMe allows users to opt in to research as it hopes to begin drug development. But if you opt in and your DNA is the key to a breakthrough, you'll never know.
If you have a very unusual genotype, very unusual, that's so valuable to a company, they'll make money on it. You won't see a penny.
The next concern? Privacy.
Your privacy is not so well protected. It may be that somebody gets your DNA and it's anonymized, but there's so many ways of de-anonymizing your DNA that eventually somebody can find out who that DNA belongs to.
As science surges forward, the law lags behind. The Genetic Information Non-Discrimination Act was signed in 2008. It says your healthcare provider and your employer cannot seek out your DNA to make a decision about your care or your job. But if you make it available, that changes the game.
If you put it on your social media sites, that's up for grabs, then they can use it.
Are people a bit naive in posting that information?
Yes, absolutely. If you post information that you have a certain mutation, for example, and your healthcare provider sees that information, they can use it.
The at-home DNA testing kit is ever expanding. The FDA has approved marketing of at-home testing kits for risks for serious diseases like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, and most recently, cancer. The more tests, the more reasons to swab and send. The larger the DNA database grows. Now, let's chart who is responsible for protecting you. You are your own watchdog. Senator Chuck Schumer led calls for transparency by the DNA testing industry and for protection of your data.
That's because DNA testing firms don't clearly disclose to consumers exactly what they're doing with the DNA once a person's cheek swab is sent in to the company.
Last December, the Federal Trade Commission made note of the issue, posting this article urging the consumer to consider the privacy implications. That means you're on your own.
I kind of get numb to, like, oh, check the box and read the fine print, but I don't really read the fine print, as you know, it's kind of like I'm used to all these electronic things, and it's like, here's your rights, check the box.
Check our site. We're going to change our privacy policies from time to time, so keep checking our site. Well, that's hardly how many people are going to do that.
In the next 4 years, at-home genetic tests are expected to be a $340 million a year industry. That's only the kit sales. The real cash cow is that DNA database. By some estimates, the potential gene market will be worth as much as $100 billion by 2030. Townsend says she'd do it all again, but through a very different lens.
Things should be more explicit in the disclaimer. So I feel like they can say, you know, your data can be out there. That might scare people, though. So I think that's probably why they don't do it.
What makes our genes so possibly valuable to them?
Well, scientists can comb through your genetic material looking for things like resistance to HIV or cancer, and then that could be turned into some sort of a treatment or vaccine worth billions, and you would never be the wiser.
Never be paid.
No, but I should mention, Ancestry.com and 23andMe said that all of their users have the power to opt out of research, and MyHeritage DNA, the company that Heather used, says it does not sell any information. You can read all of the company's statements on our website.
Very good.